All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another wonderful episode of the Passion in Motion podcast. I'm your host, Mutsa, and today I'm joined by a very special guest, Mr. Paul Smith, who is currently the CIO at Amnesty International. Hi, Paul. How's it going?
Very much. Great to be here. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, 100%. I'm super excited to have this conversation with you, as someone who's had a long and good career. Also, let me start the podcast by saying a big congratulations to you. I know you were named one of the top CIOs in the top 100 for, I think, just the UK or in the
Yes,
world. Was it just
both
UK or the
both
world?
actually. Yeah, both couple of awards recently, which is just testament to the fantastic work of my team, whose privilege it is for me to represent. The credit is all theirs.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you were nominated again, or you were named again last year, right? This is your second year running, being nominated. Wow, amazing, amazing. Yeah. How does that make you feel? Like, how do you feel about all that?
As I said, very privileged to be honest with you. I think I don't consider myself a top anything. There's still so many people in the world I look up to, but I'm glad that the work of my team is getting recognition from a jury of my peers,
Yeah.
frankly. And so I get to speak about their great work and more broadly the work of Amnesty. So it's always lovely to speak about others. But yeah, the imposter syndrome is still there from a personal perspective.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, were you surprised to get it a second time running, or like to be nominated
I
twice?
was, right. I mean, look how many great technology leaders there are just in the UK alone.
Yeah.
So I think it's for this year, for the reasons that they've been assessed. This year we came out, as one of the top 100 in the UK and one of the top 200 globally, and I'm very proud of that because I know how hard my team work. So surprised to be named, not surprised in fact, from the perspective that their work is recognised because I think they're great.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. That's really amazing stuff. No, I'm super happy for you guys, super proud.
Thank you.
I'm privileged to even be sitting here, having this interview with you, since you're one of the top dogs in the world when it comes to this stuff.
Stop it.
Yeah, so it's a privilege for me. But given that you could say you've reached a great height in your career, did you ever think that you'd ever get to a place like this? Like, was IT and technology something that was always a dream of yours? Like, you know what, your ambition when you were younger to get to this kind of level, or has this kind of been an unexpected trajectory in your life?
No, to be honest with you, much it's something that emerged. It's one of those situations where you turn a hobby and an interest into a career.
Hmm.
My career path was not linear. I never set out to work in IT. I wanted to be in the Air Force, actually. I wanted to be a pilot. But I kind of went through school and college, kind of doing business studies and science routes and things like that. And I went back to college to study IT because I wanted to take a different direction in my life. And then, of course, when you land in a career, you think, well, I want more money, I want more seniority, I want to
Yeah.
develop. And then naturally, you find yourself aiming higher.
Mm.
Um, but it's something that emerged through my career. I like to put my all into whatever I do, so that just manifests itself into wanting career progression. To be honest,
Yeah, no, that's fair. So why did you want to become a pilot? What fueled that early dream to become a pilot?
film Top Gun. The film Top Gun.
Ah,
That was it.
Tom
When I was a
Cruise.
young boy, yeah, when I was a young boy, the soundtrack worked on me, the marketing worked on me. Like I want to be that guy. And actually, because my family, they had a lot of respect for our armed forces around the world, and so it was something I was exposed to at an early age, and I found it exciting. But it wasn't to be for a couple of reasons. Namely, young
Ah.
fatherhood. Young fatherhood was the first thing that changed my perception on life. And secondly, I'm ever so slightly colourblind, which I didn't know until I went for the medical exam to be a pilot.
Do you need to know colors to become a pilot? Isn't like the sky
Absolutely,
always
yeah,
looks
yeah,
like,
no,
you know?
absolutely. It's flying at night. It's different coloured lights, which are tiny, tiny dots at night. And so to be able to tell this between a red, an orange, and a green, and a blue, with the tiniest little dots, you've got to be past everything else, but not quite that. And it just changed my priorities. There you go.
See, oh, so that was just the so if you passed that color piece, you'd have been,
Yeah,
going into
yeah,
really. So that
yeah,
was it. That was
yeah.
like no, was it?
Yeah, no, yeah, absolutely. I did all the team building stuff, passed all the aptitude tests. I was going well until that point. But like I say, life changed anyway. I was a young father at 19, and then I started to reassess my priorities about do I really want to be away from home a lot, or how does this work now?
Yeah, no,
So
that's fair. That's fair. I mean, like, have you somewhat realized that dream still of being like, did you get like a little license to, charter little small planes?
No, I
I know
haven't.
people
I
can do
haven't.
that.
I have flown a plane, but I haven't got my pilot's license. So yeah, maybe
Okay.
that's a bit later down the road. Maybe we'll circle back around on that.
Yeah.
Well, my priorities changed, and I never thought I'd be where I am today, actually, either.
Yeah.
So
So what did you do right after you were like, okay, I can't be a pilot anymore? So you said you went to school to do a business?
yeah. So I initially did business and science through college, and then I meandered around for 1 or 2 years. Didn't quite know what I wanted to do. Did all kinds of stuff. All kinds of stuff. Not many people know this about me actually, but I even cleaned public toilets. Put
Wow.
to put food on the table for a period. You do what you've
Yeah.
got to do when you're a young dad. I was a security guard. I worked in engineering. I did CAD, computer aided design. Did a bit of everything, and sometimes necessity was the mother of some of that. But not too proud to graft. And
Mm.
then realised actually let's not waste the education. Let's have a bit more direction. And I went back to university. So you go.
And this is all in the UK? Yeah. So okay, nice. So that experience cleaning toilets and all these other jobs, what did you learn something about yourself in particular that you still carry with yourself
Absolutely,
today?
absolutely. Yeah, I learned there's probably not many limits to what I would do for my family. You know, from a personal and professional perspective, and you find things out about yourself in terms of your level of dedication and your work ethic,
Yeah.
and all kinds of things. It's character building, right? I mean, I'm not going to get into any details of what those jobs can entail, but I'm sure you can imagine, right?
Yeah.
And never imagine you do what you have to do, but again, I'm a driven individual, so I wanted to do something a bit bigger and better with my life. And so when the opportunity presented itself, I did. And the rest, as they say, is history. And that was a long time ago now.
Mm. Yeah, it's always interesting how people's journeys start and to kind of where they end up, because I mean you hear those stories all the time as well, like, millionaires, billionaires, or just influential people sometimes starting at, with humble beginnings or starting, and it's always, yeah, it's always good. It's always interesting to see that because I guess those stories are important because, if it means that anybody can reach certain heights, just depends how
Absolutely.
motivated and ambitious you are.
Absolutely. I'm a working class fellow. I was brought up in social housing. I was a benefits kid, all that good stuff. So, yeah, but I had a fantastic support network around me. My parents were unwavering in their support, made me believe I could do anything. My wife has been the same. My kids have been the same, and you can't put a price on that stuff.
Mm.
So as long as I'm willing to put the hard work in and willing to dedicate and sacrifice, good things happen, right? And I'm living proof of that. So you can do anything you set your mind to, kids.
Exactly. Just a quick funny question. Do your kids believe you when you tell them they used to clean toilets for them? Like in the very beginning?
They believe it, but I don't, they never saw it. Never saw it. Never saw it. That was just something that Dad did. Dad went out and worked, and that's all I needed to know.
Yeah, yeah. Because how sometimes parents will be like, especially like in immigrant families, like let's say for us back home, like one of your parents can be like, oh, I used to walk 5 to 10 kilometers a day to go to school, for you. And now you're out here just, you can, just on your phone all the time, Like, I sacrificed so much, and sometimes, that can come out of parents when it's like, they feel like maybe you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. It's like,
I
I
get it.
did so
I
much.
get it. I get it. But as parents, that's our burden to bear. Right?
Yes,
That's
yes.
our burden to bear. I had a certain work ethic drummed into me from a very early age. I had some fantastic role models in my father. And so, like I say, it's not something I dwell on or even tell many people. I think you're the first person I've ever told on a podcast, actually. So,
Cool.
so there you go, something unique.
Yeah.
But it's made me who I am today because without those experiences, you're blinkered, you're ignorant, and you're blind. All these things, and you develop a respect for anyone, no matter what walk of life, what they do for a living, however they got to wherever they've got to, the daily struggles that they have that you may not see.
Yeah.
I I've got a new sense for that. I'm empathetic to that because having lived it myself, and so I hope to be the leader that I would have liked when I was in other careers. So that's kind of my MO.
Yeah, this reminds me of something that I always tell people that, I feel like it's widely important for people to work jobs in the service industry or to work jobs where You have to somewhat cater to other people's needs, be it work in a restaurant, be it work at a reception, be it even be a bartender, be it, be a
Absolutely.
janitor,
Yeah.
something where you're just basically a cog in the machine somewhat, or like you're just kind of working a job that, you're serving or cleaning up after others.
Yeah.
I
And there's
think that
nothing that'll make
experience,
you nothing that will make you lose the ego quicker, for one,
yes,
and actually develop a respect for people and then customer centricity, all these sorts of things that, and learn to work through adversity, learn to be humble. All of these things are really important and you can only really learn them through life experiences often, I
yes,
find.
yeah.
But
And I think, yeah,
it's all history.
it's not, yeah, for sure. And I think it's a valuable lesson for anyone, really, because I think as you said, it molds you into a much more rounded human being. I think as you move through the world, more compassionate, more empathetic too, so that when you do get into positions of power and you see somebody, you know, you would never really like feel like you're better than anybody else, because at the end of the day, no one
100%.
is better than anyone. You know, every
100%.
job serves a purpose. So
100%.
yeah,
I can give you an example. So I can walk into public toilets or toilets in a restaurant. You see the attendants there. You see the cleaners there. More often than not, they may be a bit den beaten, a bit a bit sad to be there, a little bit, maybe even a little bit embarrassed to be there. And I've been you. It's cool. I've been you. I respect what you do. I appreciate what you do. Thank you. You know,
yeah,
These simple little things. But that,
yeah.
that was very, very early in life. My career's taken some weird and wild twists since then. I've worked in defense. I've spent time in Afghanistan. I've spent time in the States. I've worked in direct marketing and I've worked in non-profit and I've worked in a whole lot of stuff around the outside as well. Automotive and cyber, all kinds of things. And I've hope and I feel like they've enriched my character a little bit as an individual. To your point, made me a little bit rounded. You see a bit more, you learn a bit more, and hopefully a little bit wiser. So it's
Yeah.
strange the journey people take, right?
It is. It is. That's what makes life so wonderful and scary at the same time. You just gotta embrace all of it, really, because it all leads somewhere. So we're gonna get into all those experiences that you've had. So you said you after business school. So what was like your first actual career job? Like after you graduated from college and let's say more like mid-career type job. What is that?
I was straight into IT from a really early age, sort of very early 20s, straight into IT and defence organisations, and spent most of my time, as I kind of alluded to, travelling between Afghanistan and the Greater Middle East and Florida in the States. Actually, every quarter I'll be in Afghanistan because we're providing expeditionary infrastructure to the armed forces in the Afghan conflict.
Mm.
So I could find myself on one trip setting up IT infrastructure for an office, on another trip helping to build a hospital, set up satellite infrastructure, helping to set up power generation infrastructure, all from an IT systems perspective. Set up communications, and as a young lad that got to fly around with armed forces on Hercules aircraft, helicopters, wearing Kevlar, being under a rocket attack at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, having to
Oh,
dive under the bed. So I got to see all of that stuff firsthand for a number of years, as well as having some fantastic investment in me as an individual, some fantastic mentorship, and some fantastic opportunities. So, my career started in an IT sense, very different from where I find myself today. But isn't it very
yeah.
strange how those experiences can inform what I do today?
Yeah.
Big
Yeah.
alongside things, you know?
Exactly. Did you experience any particular culture shocks moving from, the UK to Afghanistan, or just some
Yeah.
things that stood out to you a lot when you were over there?
Yeah, I mean, as soon as you get into international travel, in any sense, I think it broadens the horizons, doesn't it? In terms of exposure to people and cultures and beliefs that you previously maybe have only heard about.
Was it your
Um,
first time leaving the UK, like international trip wise?
and work-wise, yeah, I mean, I'd only ever been on kind of an exchange with school to France. I think before that, it
Oh,
wasn't
okay.
really until I got into work that travel opened up. And then I found myself going all kinds of places. And I was in Denmark, Kuwait, Afghanistan, lots of different places.
Yeah.
And so, I suddenly felt like the world opened up to me. I wasn't just
Mm.
viewing it through a TV screen. I was starting to meet new people, really understand what it meant to converse in a language that isn't mine, and actually how intelligent people are that talk to you in a language that isn't their native language.
Yeah.
You start to learn all of these things and develop a newfound respect for people, but also see life through their eyes.
Mm.
What it is they do, what are their beliefs, their hopes, their fears, you know. and also some common challenges. I see fathers out there working just to provide for their kids. I see
Yeah.
people aspiring to be better. I see people, working hard, looking for a hand up. And I see people wanting to just be kind generally. You see all these new things, through different people's eyes. And I found that an unbelievably enriching experience, as a young lad, and something that's really influenced the way I carry myself, both today and sort of recently.
Yeah, that's really cool. I mean, some of these things you've only seen on in the movies, like flying in an army helicopter and
Oh,
doing
absolutely.
all
Yeah.
this other stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know if you felt like Rambo at any point of that.
Not quite. I felt like, well, you certainly see some of the armed forces, and I had the 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning night flights under red light, wearing Kevlar, sat in cargo nets with troops while people are getting worked on by medical professionals at the end of the plane. And you're watching that for 3 hours in a flight. You're flying through mountains, you're diving down, to land, and all this stuff. I mean, if there are any armed forces personnel that listen to this, they know exactly what I'm talking about. But it's not something you can easily explain to anyone. But I had I'm going to call it a privilege to experience that, because it probably didn't feel like a privilege to anyone else that was there from an armed forces perspective. But I got to experience that, develop an understanding for it, whilst not being remotely in the level of risk to harm that they are. I felt
Yeah.
like a passenger almost. But as a young guy, super early 20s, these are unbelievably life changing experiences.
I can imagine that. I can imagine that. Yeah, no, that's awesome. So, how did you then get involved in human rights work?
Oh, what a journey from there to here. So, my career has taken me, as I say, through defense into direct marketing, where I worked in multiple industries, everything from automotive to financial services to travel. And then my first non-profit role was actually with a life-saving organization, a marine life-saving. And that was my first foray into the non-profit sector, really, other than, providing services to them. And I joined out of purpose. I think I was on the beach one day somewhere in the UK, and I saw a flag for this organisation. They also provided lifeguards, and I just remember saying to my wife how great it must be working for a for-purpose organisation like that. Such a recognisable brand, such a for-good kind of aura. Can do no wrong. Just out there to help people and save people's lives.
Yeah.
And then the opportunity just arose to apply for a job, and I did, and kind of the rest is history. And then through an advisory role with Amnesty, I used to be an advisor, a tech advisor, which is one of the kind of jobs I did on the side. The opportunity arose to become Amnesty's next CIO. So I threw my hat in the ring, and here I am.
So, if you had never gone to the beach that particular day and you saw that flag, do you think it'd have been where you are right now, or is that kind of like a sliding doors moment where your life could have been looking very different today?
Yeah, but you know what? I think back then, I mean, I'm going back, what, almost 9 years ago now. Now I know you can do good in any career, right? I mean, I can still volunteer outside my career. I can still work on social good initiatives within an organisation. Back then, I thought
Yeah.
the route was to work directly in those organisations. But being kind of purpose led, wanting to do good, it comes from early fatherhood, right? You want to leave a legacy, you want to have an impact. If I'm going to leave my kids 40 plus hours a week, I'd like to do something that makes a difference.
Hmm.
And that's kind of what I guess it was inevitable in that sense. Maybe I'd end up in a non-profit space. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think if things would have been different, I'd still be volunteering in some capacity now. Because there are many through digital mediums and virtual, participation. There's so many opportunities to give in lots of different ways.
Mm. Have you always had like a passion to serve others, like just people in general, be like a helping hand in some way, or like just look out for people who need to be looked out for?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it costs nothing to be kind, right? And we're all fighting our own battle. So whether you're helping on a grand scale for human rights across the globe, or whether you're just helping an individual that says, "Do you know what, I could do with an arm around me today, or I could do with a bit of advice, or have you got something that could just help me with this thing?" It doesn't hurt anyone to have that attitude. But that particular sense is quite strong in me.
Mm. Mm. No, that's good. Yeah, it's a good quality to have. Really, it really is. So before we kind of get into the day to day, or not necessarily day, but like kind of what your job now kind of entails. I also saw that you did have a brief stint at McLaren, and you already kind of mentioned automotive. How was that experience
Yeah. So
working
that
at McLaren?
So that was actually not a full-time job. So I had the privilege to do work in some advisory capacity around side my day job. And so I spent 2 years supporting that organization with technology advisory, technology strategy advisory. So a lot of work one-to-one with the CIO of that organization, with the senior leadership team, just kind of bringing external perspectives to bear for them, and challenging in a healthy way, being a critical friend, being a sounding board, helping with development, helping as a translator between the individual and his team or the individual and his boss. And I'm a Formula One fanatic,
Yeah, I was
so
about to
to
ask, are you a big Formula
I
One
am.
fan?
I am. So the ability to go to the McLaren headquarters in Woking was, kiddie in a sweet shop kind of thing. I loved it, absolutely loved it, and I felt like it was a distinct privilege, and I was very grateful, to my employers to allow me to do that as well. So, but
Yeah,
but I equally brought a lot back into my organisation in terms of this is what they do over there. I mean, maybe we can learn something from that. So it was very much a two-way street.
yeah. Did you manage to go to the race course, like the what's it
Unfortunately,
called again? The race course that's in the UK. The
there's a,
one that
there's a few. You think in Silverstone?
Silverstone. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I've been there as a normal visitor before, my own
Okay.
personal capacity, but never through that organisation.
Oh, okay, okay. And well, did you manage to meet any of the drivers at the time who were at McLaren at that?
Fortunately not.
Because I think when we talked earlier, you said that Lewis Hamilton is your favorite Formula One driver, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Would have
I,
been
I
cool.
appreciate a lot of what it stands for.
Yes, yes. Well, yeah. Well, one day, hopefully, you get to meet him if you haven't yet already. But
It's rough.
fingers crossed. Well, he's on a McLaren. Well, I know he was never at McLaren, but maybe
He
one day.
was, he was.
Was
Yeah,
it?
he was
Was it? It
McLaren.
was
Yeah,
McLaren,
early
wasn't it?
career.
Yeah.
Yeah, he
I,
was.
s- I was
Yeah.
second guessing myself. I was like, was it McLaren? But I know he's at Red Bull right now. So,
No,
but
Lewis
I
Hamilton's at Ferrari.
is it Ferrari? You see,
Yeah,
my Formula One knowledge.
there you go.
You know what? Let me say. You know what? Very funny actually. In 2001, I think my parents got the first PlayStation, and
Okay.
the game that we had on that was like a Ferrari game, like Formula One, and that's when I
Oh,
got to learn about all the Formula One because we didn't really watch Formula One. I don't think it was even televised like in Zimbabwe or really anywhere really. I don't know if Formula One is televised as much back in those days. Maybe here and there, but I don't know if it was. Maybe you can tell me if around that time if it was televised. But anyway, so just learning about all the different racers, like was it Button and some of these guys. I just you get to know a lot of names just from playing the game, and then fast forward now I'm watching Draft to Survive. I don't know if you've watched that show on
yeah,
Netflix.
yeah.
Yeah, so I think I really got into it. Until of course Max Verstappen started winning everything and all that
Yeah,
hullabaloo. Then I
yeah,
stopped. That's like, what, there's no point
yeah.
in me watching Drive to Survive anymore.
Well, I'm a petrol head. My dad was a mechanic, so I grew up. In my teenage years, I spent my teenage years, holidays, weekends, working in garages on cars, or cleaning the floors, or polishing cars. I was doing something with cars, but
Yeah.
I've grown up around cars, so it was inevitable I was going to follow motorsport at some point.
Yeah. Are you a car head like right now? Like are you
Yeah,
still like a
yeah,
big
yeah.
car
I
man?
can't help it. I don't have a car collection or anything like that because I'm a pragmatic family man these days, of course. But it doesn't stop me being interested in it, and yeah, it adds diversity to experience, doesn't it? To see some of these things in different ways. But again, going back to where I started, where cleaning garage floors too, mop in hand,
Yeah.
washing and polishing cars on a forecourt, and these are all things that I've done in my career, which seem a long way away from leading tech at the largest human rights non-profit in the world, which is where I am today.
Yeah. So before we get into that, one last question. What's a car that you wish you could just drive once in your life? Like, I wish I could just drive that car just one time. I just want to sit in there, feel the pedals, and just have a
What a,
have a spin.
what a fantastic question. I'm going to say, given what we were just talking about, it's going to have to be a Formula One car, isn't it? I suppose.
A
So
Formula One car?
if anyone's listening,
Like just going on the track and just like doing one lap in a Formula One car.
and I know you can do those sorts of experience days as well, so maybe I'll look into that at some point.
Or what about a non-Formula One car?
Not a Formula One car. I've always loved the Jaguar E-Type, and I've never driven one.
Those are
Beautiful
good.
looking car. Beautiful looking
Yeah.
car.
Yeah, very beautiful. Yeah. Awesome. 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 I'm trying to think for me. I think for me that the car one day, I don't even know if they make these anymore, but it's a Dodge Viper. And I love that car from watching the movie Wanted with Angelina Jolie and what's this guy's name? I'll remember it. I don't know.
I think
You know the car I'm talking about, right? The red
yeah,
Dodge Viper. Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, I don't know if they make those anymore. I don't know if they.
no idea. I honestly have no
Yeah,
idea.
I don't think so. I don't think so. But one day, hopefully, if I make it to great heights, I can find a car that's still moving. Yeah.
Sure.
Getting into your day to day. So what does a typical day look like for you as the CIO at a big company like Amnesty? Just generally speaking.
Yeah, and you know what, so I don't think I can give you what a typical day looks like. I think thematically, my role is split between anything from running services for the organization, which, includes managing vendors, doing what we say we're going to do to changing things for the organization and innovating for the organization. But we do a lot in the cybersecurity space here, given, the arena in which we operate. But a lot of work enabling my team, acting as that connectivity point with the wider organization, making sure we're strategically aligned, making sure that no asteroids are about to hit us, and frankly moving things out of the way so they can be the fantastic individuals that they are. As I affectionately say to my team, I'm just a mouthpiece, right? You guys do all the hard work. And it's I say it tongue in cheek, but it's genuinely true. I've got some fantastic people I work with. My job is to act in a way that enables them to do what they need to do, whatever
Mm,
that looks like.
yeah. No, that's awesome. That's awesome. So, okay, so in your view then, how has technology changed for the better or for the worse?
Big question. I think the first thing to remember, technology is still a tool, right? It's still a tool. So whether it's used for good or for bad is pretty much on us as individuals, as humans. We create the things, we use them, we misuse them. Has it changed for better or for worse? I think as a technologist, I love innovation. I love to see new things. I love to see people doing things that they couldn't do before. I love to see the human race evolve, all the positives that come with that in terms of enablement, inclusion, education, all those fantastic things. I think it's come at a cost, though. It's come at a cost to the planet, obviously, through climate change and resource utilization. I think it's come at a cost through potentially through the disengagement and
Mm,
abuse of some communities worldwide, which could be it could be wide ranging, but it could be anything from whether there's a positive impact on the global economy, there's usually a negative that goes along with it in terms of people that lose their jobs and people that gain their jobs. I think there are some challenges around how we respect labour rights,
mm,
in terms of how we respect free expression, because let's face it, if something's digital, it can be manipulated. I think how we work with and protect people's data and digital identities. I
yeah.
think there's opportunity in that space, but also some risk. I think there's some potential risks around how we manage information on a global scale, which could be news, for example, or trustworthiness of information or integrity of what we're seeing. Biases, which are kind of, I guess, links to other stuff. I think exploitation of individuals or intellectual property,
Uh-huh.
inequalities from a socioeconomic perspective. I think all of these things have emerged as new risks around technology.
Yeah.
But I also recognise some of the great things it's done in terms of assistive aids for those that are impaired in some way, to enable education for those that can't afford an education, to enable people to study in ways they could never study before because they can't travel, can't afford it. All these things have changed, and in a sense, if a rising tide lifts all ships. So when, as I mentioned, the global economy rises, there are new capabilities created, new jobs created, new futures created. So I think it's very 50-50 in my sense. I think the non-negotiables though are when we are harming the planet and harming people,
Mm,
because some of those things there's no coming back from.
yeah.
So I think it's really important and good to see in the sense where some of these large tech houses now are starting to be more ethically aware and environmentally aware. So to the exam question, has it changed for good or bad? I think both, honestly.
Mm. Okay. So, I mean, maybe if I was to ask a much more philosophical, maybe a bit of a deeper question to that, has technology made people better or worse? Technological advancement, essentially.
Has technology made people better? I think all I can do is compare it to the last evolution. So let's say the industrial evolution, when steam engines came along. That revolutionized everything for everyone, right? We could do more, we could achieve more as individuals, as a human race, and we could reach further. We became more aware. We became aware of the fact we can now measure environmental impact. We couldn't do that without technology before, really, not in the level we do today with data and models, all this stuff. So I think it's got to be. If I'm going to have to choose, it's got to be for the better. I'd be in the wrong job if I thought otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, one could make an argument for both, right? Because I
I
mean, as
think
you
you can.
said,
I think you
with
can.
technology, some people have been now able to maximize their wildest desires, which could be bad, right? Like, because as you said, now we can measure climate change, but you know, we can only measure climate change because we've had technology that needs a
Yeah,
reason for us to measure
yeah,
climate
yeah.
change. Before we didn't
Absolutely.
have, there are just days where I daydream about
I'm
sitting.
mindful of my privileges so much. I mean, I'm saying this from the perspective of being in a Western country.
Yeah,
I have the luxury of talking to you with electricity, through
yes.
communications, with access to compute. I'm in a very privileged position. I think if I was in a position, my perspective would be completely different. Because I might say, actually, you know what, it hasn't impacted my life in any good way at all. I'm still struggling to earn a living. I'm still farming the crops in the field or do whatever it is I do. I can only answer from my own perspective and experiences, but I do recognize it'd be very different from many other people.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, that's what I was saying. I just daydream about the days, maybe like in the 1500s of Southern Africa, sitting by an orange tree, not having to worry about going to a 9 to 5. I just sit by the shade of the tree. I just eat my orange and feel the
Yeah.
sun, look at the leaves rustle in the wind. And that's all I have to worry about, and then go to bed. I daydream about what that life could have been. But then I also think about, well, I probably could have died at 17 from a cut because of fungus,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, yeah.
Whereas now with technology, because one could also say, is it better that humans can live longer or not? One could, because technology has made us be able to live longer, right?
And
So,
that's it. You can only judge it by what it allows us to do now that we couldn't do before, whether it's
yeah,
living
yeah,
longer
yeah,
or
yeah.
reach into space or communicate better or become travel to each other. There's all
Mm.
these things where it's helped us, but I'm acutely aware of the things where it's caused me problems too.
Yeah, I think it's always a good debate to have, just a good conversation to have
Yeah,
about,
thanks for putting me
okay,
on the spot there, much appreciated.
for sure, 100%. Okay, so just moving on here. So we're now in an age of AI. So in your opinion, how is AI influencing the human rights space, both positively and negatively?
Yeah, I think, well, firstly, it's worth saying that, like other technologies, there are opportunities to advance our fight for human rights through AI,
Yeah,
being in mind of some of the risks I mentioned earlier. So I think, for example, there are opportunities in the human rights space around advanced data analysis and automated insights, around enhanced creation of documents and artifacts that can help educate others to ground our responses to situations and challenges in trustworthy information and certain content. There are opportunities in the way we analyze evidence for the things that we do, whether that's visual evidence or transcriptions or situational evidence, plotting evidence in time and space to get a better feel for the situation as a whole, to analyze information at speed and scale. Any information, I think, can be a good thing. And improving accessibility, not just with those that we serve, but across our organization to allow a very diverse, um, unique, employee and supporter base that coming from every corner of the world with different values, different perspectives, different opinions, different priorities to come together, around certain themes to do good, I think is fantastic. But there are all the harms that technology like this create for human rights. I mentioned these all earlier. I mean, some of these technologies come with risks, right? In terms of
yeah.
the answers I get, have they respected labour rights? Is there an environmental impact around using these technologies? Is anyone being censored? In the answer that I'm seeing, because is it not representative of? Is it representative of a majority or a minority? And there's all the data protection and IP challenges that I talked about earlier. And are we exploiting people's knowledge? Is there any bias in what I'm, if you ask AI for a picture of, a CIO at a large multinational non-profit, is it going to give you a picture of a white guy? You know, And these are things that are of a concern for your human rights space. And we want to see ethics built into these systems by default and by design, so that there are no harms. And that stuff's harder to fit in afterwards, right? It needs to start from the
Yeah.
very beginning. So how is it impacting in the human rights space? I think it's a little bit like the broader conversation we just had. I think there are some positives and negatives, but looking at the positives, I think we're now aware of the risks and issues, so we can work on them, and happy to work on them with organisations. And it also presents opportunities for us to do more with what we have, which means we can have more impact as a non-profit. You know, and again, if it's the right thing for the right tool, because just because you could doesn't necessarily mean you should. If that makes sense. So you have to look at these needs in the round and what the potential solutions are. But it's a fantastically new emerging technology. Say emerging, it's been around for a while now. But, the accessibility that we're now presented with for these sorts of tools, I think, has been transformational. Not at least on a personal level, if not process or business capability level. So I think there's a lot of opportunity there, but we've got to proceed with caution, proceed in a value-based, ethical, approach, and we'll be okay.
Mm. Yeah, and 100%. Because yeah, one of the questions I was going to ask you is if there are any ethical challenges that come with using digital tools and AI, for
Absolutely.
activism and evidence collection, and stuff like that.
Absolutely, and I've touched on it. I mean, there's all
Yeah,
that stuff. I mean,
as in, yeah,
what's the cost really of using some of these emerging tools, and is it less than if we had to work on it manually, and all
mm,
fly together to an office for 3 weeks to do it? You know,
yeah,
you can have that conversation around using this platform by using any conferencing tool that you use. You have to make informed and educated decisions around the use of technology or anything in life actually, and AI is no different. But we just need to be aware of some of the potential harms. And working in the organisation that I work in, I have fantastically, intelligent people who I learn from every day that whose job it is to focus on this stuff. We're holding organisations to account in terms of where they could do better. So it's certainly a unique perspective to have.
100%, 100%, yeah, for sure. So in this day and age, then, how serious should people take cybersecurity?
Well, I can tell you now that I mean, cybersecurity is not. It's no longer a work problem, right? It's a set of life skills. Your bank's online, your mortgages online, your social security is online, your passport's online. Cybersecurity is personal security. The link between physical and digital security is blurry these days. So if I'm in a particular region of the world and I have an opinion about something online, I may get a knock at my door from someone that wants to speak to me about it. We start to see this happen in the UK with bullying and harassment and spreading hatred online. The lines are blurring, but you know what? You need this awareness. You need this skill set as an individual in life these days. What we teach at our organisation and other organisations like ours are how to apply that in a work setting. Because you've got all your own personal concerns, but actually we're responsible for our supporters, our whistleblower base, our employees, those that we work with and for, and how can we make sure we're doing no harm and protecting their privacy, their data, handling it in the right way in accordance with legislation. So I think, and when you add that to the political environment that an organisation like Amnesty works in, where frankly, it's our job to say things as we see them,
Yeah.
and be impartial, and that can upset certain actors, which can lead to repercussion. So it's certainly a unique organisation to work in that sense. And the cybersecurity guys have always been out to get us. The bad guys have always been out to get us throughout my IT career. It's the first time I've really seen that, you know, for real in an organisation like ours. And a little bit of googling will tell you that Amnesty as an organisation is on, hacktivism hit lists. That's public knowledge. You'll find us out there. So I've got a great team who have to work, to make sure that we're sustainable and operational, pretty much 24/7.
Mm.
So how
So
important is it? Very
yeah.
important.
For sure, 100%. So, you talked about all these things that are linked to your bank account, your number, your address, all these things. So, what are things that average people can do to make sure that they've protected themselves as much as possible from getting hacked or from having their identity stolen? Because we're seeing a lot more of it now. There are a lot of scammers out there, a lot of people just
Absolutely.
wanting to do harm. So what can an average person do more to protect themselves?
Great question. I'll give you two simple answers and then maybe something a bit more detailed. But the first thing you do is show awareness of the risk and educate yourself. Proceeding with life thinking it will never happen to me, that's a recipe for disaster. That's arrogance, right? If you don't know what you don't know, or if you know you should know it and you're still ignoring it, recognize the risk to you, your family, your financial situation, your credit score, whatever is important to you, recognize the link because everything is digital. So that's the first thing, and educate yourself. Secondly, if you don't know, ask. Don't struggle. Ask. Someone somewhere can help you if you have doubts, if you need some advice. We advise our users, don't click on something unless you're unsure. Just ask. I mean, no one's ever going to tell you off for asking. So I think that they're two really simple things you can do that are within your control as an individual, I think. But there are so many resources that are accessible to anyone these days on the internet, whether it's a YouTube video, a LinkedIn learning clip, free courses, your own organization probably runs cybersecurity awareness. These are all things that you can apply in your day-to-day life. And there are a lot of technical controls that you can implement, right? Good password hygiene, managing the security of your devices, managing your online privacy in terms of what you subscribe to, managing your internet safety to make sure your family isn't seeing things or going to any websites they shouldn't be going to. These are all cybersecurity hygiene basics that you can pick up relatively easy by watching a couple of YouTube videos, which are other platforms are available, but
Mm-hmm.
that's accessible to all, right? Or a quick Google search.
Mm. Yeah, very very important stuff because I mean, I just even Instagram is a place where people just lose their accounts all the time, and I'm always like, man, what happened that you got hacked? And I'm just, one day I'm sure I'll be next. So it's
But you
just
know what?
thinking
Some
about
of
it.
these platforms are getting better, aren't they? I mean, they
Yeah.
have privacy checkup tools. They have really good explainers. They will prompt you to do things like set up multi-factor authentication if you don't have it. They will tell you to reset your password if it suspects something has gone wrong. And they enforce standards. You can't use Paul Smith 123 as a password. That's not a password, by the way. It will tell you what you should be doing and suggest alternatives. So technology's come a long way in that sense. What's that?
Mm. Yeah, no, for sure. So final question here before, we let you go. Um, do you have any personal examples of recent tech initiatives that have had real world impacts?
Wow, I'd like to say everything we do every day, but that's such a broad answer, isn't it?
It is a broad idea.
I think we work really hard on unlocking collaboration for our organization to make sure there's equity of service for the people that we work for and with, to make sure they have access to the knowledge and information that they get access to be able to work together on common projects and themes. And that can be anything from co-creation on a document to be able to have a Teams call together, in a way that suits them with all the assistive and learning technologies around it that they may need, which could be translation, transcription, all of these things that enable collaboration and connectivity for individuals to work in an asynchronous or synchronous way. And that's particularly important in a global organization, a multilingual organization operating in different time zones with people that all start from a different point, whether it's education, access, resources, you know, simple things like that create a shift in the needle for an organization like ours to really unlock the potential of our people and bring them to bear. So that's been a continued focus for us. We touched on cybersecurity, so we're relentless in that space because that enables us to keep our people safe, keep our organizational data secure, keep us compliant with the law, and to protect those that need to work with us and have their privacy respected. All these kinds of themes are really important for us. And that has real world impact for us because it protects our credibility, it protects our ability to do what we do, and it protects people's trust in us as an organization who may offer up this information or whistleblow. So these are all important themes. And last but not least, we've done some really good work I alluded to it earlier, but in the evidence management space. So to be able to visualize a scenario, a particular situation that may have happened somewhere in the world, and plot photographs and video and audio transcription in time and space around a 3D map. So as a researcher or an incident analysis, I can almost step through this incident in time, follow it around a map and see, well, that photo took that image from that perspective. This video is from that perspective. Can I kind of correlate these things to draw out any insights? So that's certainly moved the needle for some of our researchers as well. So, but we do a lot in those sorts of spaces. So there are three for you.
Yeah, you know what, and those are great. Thank you. Yeah, and no, actually, very very last question because I think maybe this is probably one of the more important ones. Um, right now we're seeing a world in which people are getting used, or people are, with AI, for example, when it comes to jobs, right? And like applying for jobs, and companies using AI as well to screen jobs, and in many other scenarios too. It's not just in jobs, just many other ways in which technology is now people are having to adjust to a lot of new things when it comes to just advancements and what it's doing and how to get ahead. And, we're just in a very crazy time in the world right now. So, what do you hope to see moving forward between, at this intersection between what the average person is experiencing and kind of where the world is going with technology? Like, I think there's a bit of a mismatch right now, which is kind of where we are at. So, moving forward, what do you kind of hope to see happen?
I think my greatest hope from technology advancement is more equity. I touched on it, but everyone starts from a different place in terms of the money they have, the upbringing they have, the access to the resources they have, the education they have. And I just hope it brings a little bit more inclusion, a little bit more accessibility to people. And I'm not talking about, here's one thing and one size should fit all. Maybe I need something a bit extra as an individual. Maybe I need something slightly different. And that's what equity is about, giving me what I need to get to an equal playing field. And that's what I hope to see from technology. There've been some fantastic strides in that space. But that for me will help unlock education for those that can't afford it, legal advice for those that can't have access to it, health advice in the moment that's more tailored to my perspective, helping me to explore and learn about subjects in a way that suits me. These are all fantastic aids, which I think can be great for humanity. And so I just hope to see a little bit more equity in that sense. I hope to see the digital divide close a little bit between the haves and the have-nots. And I think technology has the power to do that. And there needs to be an incentive for people to want to address that problem. There are still individuals in the UK, and I'm sure the same in the States, that they don't have access to basic computing resource, basic connectivity, basic data. And I think that they are things that can be fixed through technology. We can bring people close together for support. There's all these kinds of things that technology enables us to do that we could never do in the past before. Lofty hopes, and I hope that one day they can be realised.
Yeah, I hope so too as well, especially in that equity piece and making sure everybody gets at least the same level of connection. I think I'm with you on the same page. Well, thank you so much, Paul, for coming on here and giving us your expertise, and sharing some of your own personal stories. I appreciate, learning more about just people and what has made you who you are today, and kind of like, what you hope for in certain situations, for the future. So I certainly appreciate taking the time to come on this podcast and imparting us with your knowledge about this space. Because I mean, it is a space that impacts a lot of people. So hearing from an industry leader is always a good thing and a wonderful thing. So
You're
I
very
appreciate
kind,
your
Winston.
time
Very kind. Thank you for the privilege. It is a privilege to be listened to. So thank you for the opportunity.
for sure. And with that, listener, thank you so much, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Thank you.